Hello everyone and welcome to English Pod. My name is Marco.
My name is Catherine, and today we're talking about a dream home, so building the home of your dreams.
That's right, and this lesson today is advanced, so it might be a little bit hard, and we're going to be taking a look at not only some vocabulary related to your home or decorations and stuff, but also how to treat your loved one in a nice way, or little, what do you call them, nicknames.
Cute names, pet names.
Pet names.
That's right.
Okay.
So stay tuned. We'll be talking about very specific things having to do with building a home and home remodeling. And so we'll hear this dialogue one time, but when we're back in just a minute here, we'll be talking about what those things mean.
Mr. and Mrs. Robinson, let's get straight to it. You have saved up your money for years and are now ready to build your dream home. What did you have in mind?
A suburban bungalow straight out of the 60s. A perfect lawn with minimal landscaping, a brick patio in the backyard with an old-fashioned grill, quaint lawn furniture, and a swimming pool. A 2-car carport, pastel siding, and a gable roof, completed with white shutters and a white picket fence.
Honey?
In the living room, we would have moss green rugs and a fireplace with a stone mantel and wood paneling on the walls. In the kitchen, the cupboards would be a pale yellow, and we would have a turquoise metal oven and vinyl flooring.
Sweetie, but I was thinking of more a modern style house, an open concept house, all glass, wood, metal, and concrete.
But sweetums, there's always a lot of wasted space in those kinds of homes. Besides, it's just a fad. It doesn't have the homey feeling the old homes do.
Sweetie Pie, it's not a lot of wasted space. It is relaxing, and the house would be eco-friendly with an in-floor heating system and designed to retain the heat of the sun in the winter and keep the house cool in the summer. We would have solar panels on the roof.
Do you know how much those things cost?
What about your vintage furniture, dearest? And instead of a lawn, which is also a lot of wasted space and would require environmentally harmful pesticides, we would have a fish pond in the backyard and a garden that would cover the whole yard so we could grow our own food.
But Buttercup, I thought you always said that you loved visiting your grandmother's house.
And I thought you, Mr. Scientist, were all up on saving the planet with your technological advancements.
Well, I am just going to get some coffee while you two keep discussing. All right, we're back. So apparently the couple can't seem to agree. He wants something different than what she does, and in the end I think they were a little bit irritated with each other.
Doesn't this always happen, though? I mean, my dream home is probably not your dream home.
I don't know, it's weird, but I mean, you would probably have to, I don't know, compensate somehow or
well, that's the beauty of compromise. I think you can go back and forth, but with your loved one or your spouse, you have to make some decisions about what you want and what they want.
All you need to do is give a guy his own room in which he can decorate and do whatever he wants with it. That's all you need. No, not me, just any guy. Just, you want to decorate the house in any way you want, fine, but just give us one room, like 5 meters by 5 meters, where we can put anything we want.
A beer cooler, a TV, a PS3, a sound system, and a couple guitars.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. That's you described it.
I've been to your house, I know. Anyway, we've got a lot of great words here in language takeaways, so let's take a peek at some of those.
Language takeaway.
All right, so the first word that we have, or it's actually a concept, minimal landscaping.
Okay, so minimal is a style, minimalist actually, and minimal landscaping is this kind of style of, well, designing your lawn or your garden.
Okay.
So minimal means not having adornments or decorations.
Okay, so it's kind of like the less is more type thing.
Exactly. So minimal architecture could be very simple, lots of clean lines, not much decoration. It's the opposite of something that's baroque and highly ornamented.
Yeah, no, I don't like that. I'm into minimal. All right, minimalist. Anyways, we have minimal landscaping. And well, he's talking about his patio and an old-fashioned grill. And he said quaint lawn furniture.
Quaint is sometimes, well, it's usually kind of a bad thing. We say something is quaint in the way of saying that it's cute, but we don't really like it because it's maybe old-fashioned or, kind of old style. Mm-hmm. So, isn't that quaint? It's something that people from the city often say about people in the country, at least in America. So, because, I went to school on the East Coast and I'm from the Midwest. So people on the East Coast would say, "Oh, your house is so quaint. It's, small and cute and old fashioned."
Right.
Because they live in a big, fancy New York apartment or whatever. So quaint is usually something that's not the nicest, but.
So he's looking for some lawn furniture that's not like plastic or new. It's more like old fashioned, maybe wood, right?
Right, and kind of traditional and not fancy.
Okay.
It's kind of simple. Mm-hmm.
Now he's also talking about the house, and he wants a 2-car carport, pastel siding, and a gable roof. So now we know what a roof is, but what is a gable roof?
A gable is a thing, right? And it's almost like an extension of the roof in certain parts. For example, on a traditional Cape Cod style house, you have windows in the front that they're not a part of the roof. They're an extension.
They're
they
kind of like
come out.
popping out like eyes.
Exactly. They're coming out like eyes. And so the roof, obviously you need a roof on top of those windows. So that kind of roof, that little extension, that's called a gable.
Okay.
And so there's a wonderful book that's famous in American history called The House of Seven Gables. That means that on this roof of the house, there are 7 different parts that come out. 7
cool.
gables. It's very unique.
Those houses usually look a little bit scary.
They do. Victorian and imposing.
All right. So you have a gable roof. Now you have shutters and a white picket fence. This is typical. Everyone talks about a white picket fence around their house.
That's right. There was even a TV show in America years ago called Picket Fences.
Really?
And I think a picket fence is kind of this ideal in American culture about having your own home in the suburbs and having your own space. And so around your yard, around your garden, you have this white picket fence. And so a picket is I think the pointed part. So a picket fence is thin pieces of wood that stand in the ground and are connected to protect your property from other people coming inside.
Okay. So that's a white picket fence. You'll hear it all the time. Usually in movies or in TV shows, they talk about having their own little house with their dog and a white picket fence.
Exactly. 2 kids, 2 cars.
And a white picket fence. All right. So now the woman argued that she wanted something a little bit more modern. And, the guy said, you know what, that's, it's just wasted space. And those types of homes are just a fad.
A fad. So a fad is something that is passing. It's something that's popular for a short time, but then it goes away. It's not popular anymore.
Right.
So,
for example, I think for a while, remember those shoes? They used to have little red lights in the back in the heel.
oh yeah, LA Lights.
LA Lights.
That's right.
Those were a fad. It
Absolutely.
was really popular for like a year. Everyone had them, everyone wore them, and then they just went away.
One of my favorite fads of the 1980s were those shirts that would change color if the room temperature changed color. So if you go outside and it's hot, they would become bright pink. But if you're in a cold room, they would go blue and green. It was really fun, but they're definitely out of fashion these days.
I don't think they wear them anymore. So that's a fad. That's something that's temporary. It's popular for a while. So he called her house a fad, and she says, well, what about your house? All this vintage furniture. What's vintage?
Vintage, well, some people think that vintage is a fad. A lot of people really enjoy buying vintage furniture or vintage clothing. Vintage means old.
Old.
So
it's a nice way of saying old, or like a nice or cool way of saying old.
Yeah, so it's almost like, for example, right now, 1940s and 50s clothes are very popular. A lot of girls are into this kind of style, so it's called, vintage clothing because it's not from today's styles. It's an old style. Or you could even call, those big flowing dresses from the 1970s vintage clothing. So vintage furniture would be furniture that comes from a different time, a different era, and that it's popular now.
Right, they're popular now. Or people like to buy them now.
That's right. So they're special because they come from a different time.
Okay. So those are the words that we have for today on Language Takeaway. Why don't we move on now to some pet names or some sweet ways that you can call your loved ones on Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
So the reason this dialogue is very funny is because we have these two people who are clearly in disagreement about the kinds of furniture and house they want. But they're being so nice to each other. They have these cute names for each other. So it's really, I don't know, it's really funny.
It almost seems like they're newlyweds, but apparently they've been saving up their entire life. So maybe they're just one of those really loving couples.
Oh, sweetums, cutie pie, cutie.
All right, so that's the first one. Sweetums.
Sweetums. So obviously the main part of this word is sweet. Sweetums. This is a way to say, hey, sweetie.
Okay.
Sweetums.
Sweetums. So you can say sweetie or sweetums.
Exactly.
And that's a nice way of saying to somebody. Or you can go sweetie pie.
Sweetie pie. So pie is a food, it's like
pie is
a
sweet.
dessert. It's the sweet. So sweetie pie, or you could say honey pie.
Honey pie, sweetie pie.
So these are all cute. And the nice thing about these kind of pet names, these cute names, is you can change them if you want. And they're yours. So you could say, honey pie, sugar bun. They're silly, but there's no real rule. But these are the most common.
Right.
Sweetums and sweetie pie.
Okay. Now, moving on to something a little bit maybe more formal. Dearest.
This makes me think of my grandparents.
Oh, really?
Dearest. So dearest comes from dear. Dearest is the most dear. So someone who's the most important to you.
Okay.
And so you could say mummy dearest, mother dearest.
Oh, really? You heard that somewhere?
Oh, yeah.
Do people call that their mothers like mother dearest?
Mother dearest. No, it's very 1930s.
I'm so arrogant.
It is, well, it's an old time thing. It's not, we do not say this anymore, but you can say, dearest, would you mind moving the car, please?
I like the accent you put, kind of like English. All right. And the last one, buttercup. This is really popular.
This is really popular, and you've heard this in a song before. You want to sing the song?
You sing the song. Why do you
build me up? Buttercup, baby.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was in a lot of movies. The word is buttercup.
Buttercup.
Also in the movie The Princess Bride was the character Princess Buttercup. And so this is a sweet, obviously a sweet thing. I think a buttercup is a flower.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so these are all words you can use, names you could use with men and women, but buttercup is mostly women. I think the other ones are more general.
But do you think, do guys say to their loved ones, like, sweetie pie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I guess, guys, if you want to be really sweet and you want to win over the hearts of the ladies, you can use these words as well.
Another popular one is babe, which is more of a young person thing to say.
Yeah, I think it's more modern as well. Babe.
Honey or babe.
Baby.
You're verging on not so sweet.
No, but hey baby, how are you? It's nice. No. But not like, hey baby.
All right. Well, we're gonna leave you with that thought and go listen to this dialogue one more time, but we'll be back in a moment.
Mr. and Mrs. Robinson, let's get straight to it. You have saved up your money for years and are now ready to build your dream home. What did you have in mind?
A suburban bungalow straight out of the 60s. A perfect lawn with minimal landscaping, a brick patio in the backyard with an old-fashioned grill, quaint lawn furniture, and a swimming pool. A 2-car carport, pastel siding, and a gable roof, completed with white shutters and a white picket fence.
Honey?
In the living room, we would have moss green rugs and a fireplace with a stone mantel and wood paneling on the walls. In the kitchen, the cupboards would be a pale yellow, and we would have a turquoise metal oven and vinyl flooring.
Sweetie, but I was thinking of more a modern style house, an open concept house, all glass, wood, metal, and concrete.
But sweetums, there's always a lot of wasted space in those kinds of homes. Besides, it's just a fad. It doesn't have the homey feeling the old homes do.
Sweetie pie, it's not a lot of wasted space. It is relaxing, and the house would be eco-friendly with an in-floor heating system and designed to retain the heat of the sun in the winter and keep the house cool in the summer. We would have solar panels on the roof.
Do you know how much those things cost?
What about your vintage furniture, dearest? And instead of a lawn, which is also a lot of wasted space and would require environmentally harmful pesticides, we would have a fish pond in the backyard and a garden that would cover the whole yard so we could grow our own food.
But Buttercup, I thought you always said that you love visiting your grandmother's house.
And I thought you, Mr. Scientist, were all up on saving the planet with your technological advancements.
Well, I am just going to get some coffee while you two keep discussing. All right, we're back. So, apart from this, decorations and stuff, do you agree with the vintage home, the more like minimalist thing, or do you like the open concept one, the bigger one?
I love the look of minimalism, but as a place to live, it's not comfortable, right? And so when I think of an aesthetic that I like, a look that I like, I really like kind of dark wood, velvety, 19th century kind of.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, I think of old Vienna.
You like Castle Dracula?
No, not dark. I like things to be open. And I like a lot of natural light, but I also like oversized, kind of heavy furniture and really luscious fabrics and things like that. So that's I'm
actually completely different because I do like this open concept. I like those houses that I like the way they look inside as well as outside when they're kind of squared, big windows, clean lines. Inside is like, for example, in the kitchen, you have polished aluminum or polished steel furniture in the kitchen, as well as a lot of white and red or black, especially. I kind of like that kind of open spaces.
Primary colors.
Yeah. Flat screen TVs on the wall and stuff like that. Like
remote controls.
IKEA lamps. Yeah, like those remote controls where you can open your curtains, your TV, and the lights all at the same time. I kind of like that stuff.
Cool. Well, let us know what you guys like because everyone has their own opinion on what a beautiful house is. And if you have any pictures, feel free to share them with us on our website, EnglishPod.com.
All right. We'll see you guys there.
Bye.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Something you really want to do. Dream. Place where a person lives. Home. Located or residing in a suburb. Suburban. A house which is built on one level. Bungalow. The years from 1960 to 1969. The 60s. The smallest possible amount or size. Minimal. A view across an area of land. Landscaping. An area of the garden with a hard surface. Patio. Unusual or old-fashioned. Quaint. A place where you park your car. Carport. A kind of dry color in sticks. Pastel. Material attached to the outside of a building. Siding. The triangular upper part of a wall. Gable. The top of a building. Roof. Covers unfold in front of a window. Shutter. The shelf above a fireplace. Mantel. Sheets of wood fit into a frame to form a wall. Paneling. A bluish-green precious stone. Turquoise. Firm plastic which can be bent. Vinyl. Used as a term of endearment. Sweetums. Fashion. Fad. Having a feeling of home, comfortable. Homey. Used as a term of endearment. Sweetie pie. Not harmful to the environment. Eco-friendly. Installed in the floor. In floor. A system for keeping rooms warm. Heating. To keep or keep possession. Retain. Relating to the sun, using its light. Solar. A flat section of a wall, door. Panel. Representative of the best and most typical. Vintage. Used as terms of endearment. Dearest. A chemical substance used to kill insects. Pesticide. A creature living in water. Fish. A small body of water. Pond. A plant with small yellow flowers. Buttercup. Based on scientific and industrial progress. Technological. Improvement or development. Advancements. A fence consisting of pickets. Picket fence. A form or style of room. Open concept. Have all knowledge or information of something. All up on. Let's try that faster. A bluish-green precious stone. Turquoise. Unusual or old-fashioned. Quaint. Place where a person lives. Home. The triangular upper part of a wall. Gable. An area of the garden with a hard surface. Patio. Based on scientific and industrial progress. Technological. The top of a building. Roof. Material attached to the outside of a building. Siding. Used as a term of endearment. Sweetums. Used as terms of endearment. Dearest. Firm plastic which can be bent. Vinyl. Something you really want to do. Dream. The years from 1960 to 1969. The 60s. Representative of the best and most typical. Vintage. Improvement or development. Advancements. A system for keeping rooms warm. Heating. A chemical substance used to kill insects. Pesticide. A view across an area of land. Landscaping. A house which is built on one level. Bungalow. Installed in the floor. In floor. Having a feeling of home, comfortable. Homey. Located or residing in a suburb. Suburban. To keep or keep possession. Retain. Fashion. Fad. A place where you park your car. Carport. A fence consisting of pickets. Picket fence. A form or style of room. Open concept. A small body of water. Pond. Relating to the sun, using its light. Solar. A creature living in water. Fish. Covers unfold in front of a window. Shutter. Not harmful to the environment. Eco-friendly. The shelf above a fireplace. Mantle. A plant with small yellow flowers. Buttercup. Sheets of wood fit into a frame to form a wall. Paneling. The smallest possible amount or size. Minimal. Used as a term of endearment. Sweetie pie. Have all knowledge or information of something. All up on. A flat section of a wall, door. Panel. A kind of dry color in sticks. Pastel. Now say the word and hear it in a sentence. Picket fence. The only thing holding in the cattle is the old wooden picket fence, so it's no wonder that the bull so easily charged through it and escaped. Picket fence. In her daydreams, she always imagined herself newly married and living in a house with a white picket fence in a picturesque countryside. Picket fence. My mother grew up in a neighborhood where everyone's yard was enclosed by a picket fence. Nowadays, some of those fences are still standing, but most of them have been replaced by chain link fences. Vinyl. When my family renovated our kitchen, we took up the old vinyl flooring and put down a hardwood floor. Vinyl. I love the vinyl floor in the bathroom because though it is made to look like tile, it is warmer and softer on bare feet. Vinyl. My friend is a vinyl fanatic. He has vinyl records, vinyl floors, vinyl clothing, a vinyl couch, and even the siding on his house is vinyl. Open concept. A popular trend in architecture right now is designing open concept buildings. Open concept. Open concept homes are spacious and bright, but the effect is only truly achieved when the decor is consistent between the adjoining rooms. Open concept. The open concept and soothing colors of the hotel lobby took my breath away as I walked through the revolving door. Eco-friendly. Carrying your groceries in a reusable cloth bag is more eco-friendly than using a new plastic one. Eco-friendly. My neighbors told me that they spray their lawn with an eco-friendly fertilizer. Eco-friendly. It seems that more and more businesses are becoming concerned about protecting the environment and are using their eco-friendly practices and values as a key point in their advertisements. All up on. A friend of mine is all up on the latest trends in fashion. All up on. When I was in high school, I was all up on finding a cure for cancer, but then I went to university and discovered that my real passion was composing music. All up on. My brother is an advocate for environmental awareness, so he's all up on crazy facts like how long it takes for a piece of plastic to disintegrate and how many fish die per year from ingesting garbage floating around in the ocean.
Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine, and today we've got a very, very useful lesson for all of you out there.
That's right. We're bringing you part 2 of the What If series, which is a small series.
Small, and it is kind of grammar focused, but it's very, very important because you often want to talk about things that don't happen. We're calling these hypotheticals or conditional statements.
Right. So there are many different types of hypotheticals or conditional statements. So today we're going to be looking at the third conditional, which is probably the hardest one because it uses a little bit of a complex grammar structure.
It's complex, and we're actually talking about things that did not happen and that will not happen, right?
It's impossible to change.
It's impossible to change these because there are things that would have happened in the past but didn't.
Wow, that sounds confusing. Why don't we listen to the dialogue for the first time, and then we'll be back to look at some phrases first.
This is the good life. We have it good, don't you think?
Yeah, of course. Although, don't you ever wonder what could have been?
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes I think of how things could have turned out if I had done things a little differently.
For example?
Like, for example, if I hadn't studied architecture, I would have become an artist like I wanted to.
I see. Yeah, now that I think of it, I wouldn't have gotten married if I hadn't moved to this town and met Sally.
You see, everything happens for a reason. We wouldn't even have met if I hadn't been in that car accident 10 years ago.
Well, I have no regrets.
I'll drink to that.
All right, so two guys, talking about life.
I imagine these guys as being, middle age or a little bit older, sitting on a porch, drinking a beer, talking about what could have been.
Yeah, exactly. They're kind of thinking about the past and
the decisions they have made.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so before we start in the grammar, why don't we take a look at a couple of different phrases on Fluency Builder?
Fluency Builder.
Well, Marco, this first phrase is a phrase you'll hear very often in English. It's a phrase that even has philosophical roots, something we talked a lot about when we were studying Socrates back in school. But this is the good life.
The good life. We have the good life, or
right.
I have a good life.
I have a good life is a very common phrase, but here, the good life is an idiom. Mm-hmm. So I'm living the good life. It means, I have no complaints about my life.
Right. So pretty much you have all your necessities covered.
And maybe you have a nice family and you have a good job and you're just happy. So this is the good life.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So you have the good life. Now, moving on to another phrase that's kind of also philosophical, it says everything happens for a reason.
All right. So this phrase is, it's also pretty common. People say this when bad things happen, but they also say this when good things happen.
Yeah. So basically, you're just saying that it's destiny. If this bad thing happened to you, there is a reason for it. Maybe you don't see it now, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe later you'll see why.
This often happens when people lose their jobs. You say, everything happens for a reason. Maybe losing this job will allow you to find a better job.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe go back to school and study.
Or maybe meet the man or woman of your dreams.
Right, so everything happens for a reason. Very good. And then the guy agrees and says, I'll drink to that.
Okay, so this is a way for people speaking English to say, listen, I agree with you. I like that idea. And I will cheers.
Cheers, right.
Right? So this means we're going to touch our glasses or touch our beer bottles and we're going to, think about how this is it's a nice thought, Everything happens for a reason is positive. It's a way to say, listen, good things can happen from this.
Right.
So he's saying, yes, I agree. Cheers.
I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to that.
All right. Well, pretty interesting phrases. They're very common, I guess, like colloquial, right? Mm-hmm. So you can use them in everyday conversation with a friend.
You can. And, oftentimes we say, for example, something really positive like, I'm really glad I have such great friends. And then everyone says, I'll drink to that. Right. Mm-hmm. And so this is something you'll hear when you're out with friends or with family. And they may sound funny at first, but you will recognize them when you're speaking to people who speak English.
All right. So let's listen to our dialogue again, and then we'll come back and explain the grammar.
This is the good life. We have it good, don't you think?
Yeah, of course. Although, don't you ever wonder what could have been?
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes I think of how things could have turned out if I had done things a little differently.
For example?
Like, for example, if I hadn't studied architecture, I would have become an artist like I wanted to.
I see. Yeah, now that I think of it, I wouldn't have gotten married if I hadn't moved to this town and met Sally.
You see, everything happens for a reason. We wouldn't even have met if I hadn't been in that car accident 10 years ago.
Well, I have no regrets.
I'll drink to that.
Beep, beep, beep.
All right, so now it's time for grammar breakdown.
Grammar breakdown.
So in grammar breakdown, we're going to look at the two main parts of these phrases that allow us to talk about things that didn't happen. So we're talking about looking back at our life and seeing what decisions and what actions we made. And in this case, we have a great sentence here. If I hadn't studied architecture, I would have become an artist.
All right. So let's look at the first part before the comma. If I hadn't studied architecture. So now we have the conditional if.
So Marco, big question. Did he study architecture?
He did.
He did. So if I hadn't studied architecture, it means I did study architecture. But if I had not studied it, okay, so this is if I could change the past, then what would I have done?
I would have become an artist.
Okay, so he wanted to be an artist, but he didn't become an artist. He studied architecture instead.
Right.
Okay,
Very
so
good.
You can see the two parts here. We have one, the condition, if I hadn't done this thing. And then afterwards, we have the result. Then I would have become an artist. So this is the hypothetical.
Very good. And when we see the condition, you see the the structure of the sentence is had plus verb in past participle. So if I hadn't studied architecture, and this is called the past perfect, right? And then the result, as you said, would have become. This is the present perfect, have or has plus verb in past participle. Let's look at another example. I wouldn't have gotten married if I hadn't moved to this town.
Okay, so we've got the same idea here, but we've got it flipped. We've got these two parts in different places. And so he's pretty much saying, if I hadn't moved to this town, then I wouldn't have gotten married. But what did happen? He did move to this town, and he did get married.
Exactly. So then, yeah, like you say, he changed the condition, and you can do this. You can put the condition in the beginning or at the end. And again, the structure is the same. I would have gotten married, right? Have gotten, this is present perfect, have or has, depending on the subject, plus the verb in past participle. And then the past perfect or the condition, had plus verb in past participle, hadn't moved to this town. All right?
That's a lot of grammar.
It's a lot of grammar, but it's very easy once you just start using it. Don't think too much about, okay, what do I do here? Just, if you get the rhythm and you start using it in the same way, then it kind of comes out naturally. And if you make a little mistake, there's not a big deal because even we do it,
Exactly. Well, let's try a couple of examples off the top of our heads. First of all, if I hadn't moved to China, I wouldn't have learned Chinese.
Very good. So you did move to China and you did learn Chinese.
Exactly. So your turn.
All right. If my parents hadn't spoken Spanish to me when I was a kid, I wouldn't have become fluent in Spanish.
Okay, so your parents did speak Spanish to you, and you did become fluent in Spanish,
yes.
So not bad.
Right. As you can see, you can use it not only to think about things in the past that you can't change anymore, but just also, kind of remember or say, if this hadn't happened, the result.
Or if I hadn't opened my big mouth, my best friend wouldn't have gotten so angry at me.
Exactly.
So I said something stupid and my friend did get angry and now I feel bad about it.
It happens. All right, very good. So I hope it's clear. It does sound a little bit complicated, but this is what our website is for, right? So if you have questions or doubts or you want to try and plant your own ideas, you can come to the website and do it.
Want to make some of your own sentences and practice some of these new things, then come to our website, post some comments, and we are happy to correct and add our own commentary on those.
Exactly. So before we go, let's listen to this dialogue one last time.
This is the good life. We have it good, don't you think?
Yeah, of course. Although, don't you ever wonder what could have been?
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes I think of how things could have turned out if I had done things a little differently.
For example?
Like, for example, if I hadn't studied architecture, I would have become an artist like I wanted to.
I see. Yeah, now that I think of it, I wouldn't have gotten married if I hadn't moved to this town and met Sally.
You see, everything happens for a reason. We wouldn't even have met if I hadn't been in that car accident 10 years ago.
Well, I have no regrets.
I'll drink to that.
All right, we're back. So, Catherine, any other regrets maybe in your life apart from opening your mouth?
Any other regrets? If my parents had spoken Spanish to me as a kid, I would have learned. But instead, I just learned English, and that's all.
Well, your mom is half Swedish, right?
Half Swedish, half Czech.
So, and she never spoke any of these languages to you?
She didn't speak Swedish or Czech. Her parents spoke English as their common language.
Oh, really?
But she grew up speaking Italian and German. But she didn't speak to me in those languages. And then as an adult, she forgot some of them. And so, because my dad, well, they're both Americans now, but my dad's American. They just spoke English to me.
Wow. But now you speak Italian, so do you ever try and talk to your mom in Italian?
Sometimes. My grandmother's Italian is much better, so my grandmother's completely fluent, so I speak to her in Italian.
Oh, wow.
And German as well. She's fluent in German too, and I studied German at school. So
see, this is the interesting thing now. So many people are speaking so many languages, and before, if you spoke another foreign language, it was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's like a requirement. You have to at least dominate your own native language and a foreign language, right? So if your native language is English, you at least have to speak Spanish or Chinese or some other language.
Definitely true. And I think there are a lot of people, a lot of our users that speak maybe 2 or 3 languages, and English is just one more. So, more power to them. This is a really great skill to have, and I think it's really important to keep on going with it, even though it's frustrating sometimes.
Right. And actually, once you've once you mastered 2 or 3 different languages, then the 4th and 5th just becomes easier.
Actually, it's true. It sounds funny when you hear it because you're like, how could it be easier to learn more? But your brain starts to understand patterns better. Yeah. Right? And so it just becomes more natural for you.
It picks up patterns from the 2 or 3 other different languages that you dominate. So it's strange how the brain works.
Connections. Yeah.
All right, guys. So that's all for today. Be sure to visit our website, englishpod.com. As we said, any questions or comments, or you want us to correct your grammar of this lesson, you can visit us there, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. To think about.
Wonder.
A person who designs buildings.
Architect.
To end up like.
Turn out.
To ruin or destroy something, like a car.
Wreck.
Used to express a realization.
Now that I think of it.
A feeling of guilt.
Remorse.
To feel sad or sorry about something.
Regret.
To think deeply about something.
Ponder.
A happy and relaxed life.
Good life.
To think fondly about the past.
Reminisce.
An alternative scenario.
Could have been.
The art and science of designing buildings.
Architecture.
A sudden event that is not planned.
Accident.
Let's try that faster. A person who designs buildings.
Architect.
A feeling of guilt.
Remorse.
To end up like.
Turn out.
A happy and relaxed life.
Good life.
To feel sad or sorry about something.
Regret.
An alternative scenario.
Could have been.
The art and science of designing buildings.
Architecture.
To think about.
Wonder.
Used to express a realization.
Now that I think of it.
To ruin or destroy something, like a car.
Wreck.
To think deeply about something.
Ponder.
To think fondly about the past.
Reminisce.
A sudden event that is not planned.
Accident.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Wonder. I wonder what Mike is doing in his room. I think he's building a time machine or something. Wonder. I wonder why Debbie kicked her husband out of the house. Wonder. We often wonder and ask ourselves why we continue to spend money on useless things. Turn out. Our house turned out beautifully. The architect is very talented. Turn out. I'm curious to see how everything will turn out in the next few days. Turn out. It turns out Bob was right. I really do have a drinking problem. Now that I think of it. Actually, now that I think of it, I do have a lawnmower you could borrow. Now that I think of it. Wait, now that I think of it, you owe me $100. Now that I think of it. Now that I think of it, I should have behaved better at the party. Regret. You can't live your life with regrets. Stay positive and optimistic. Regret. Do you have any regrets in life? Regret. I regret to inform you that your dog will never walk again. If I hadn't gone skiing, I wouldn't have broken my leg. If Ellie had studied harder, she would have passed the exam. They wouldn't have missed their flight if they had left home earlier.